starting with introductions, my name is Azucena Garcia. I'm the Parent and Family Engagement Specialist with Lemon Grove School District. Mi nombre es Azucena García y soy la especialista en participación de padres y familias de aquí del distrito de Lemon Grove. We are so excited to host this event, not only because it's National Poetry Month, but because of the diversity of today's panel with our poets not only being local poets, but just amazing community members and really representative of the diversity in our communities. And that's what today is all about. It's just celebrating our diversity, our voices, our cultures, and being proud of who we are, which is really a result of a lot of the feedback we've gotten from students and families wanting that, those events and those opportunities to really showcase the talent that we have in our own communities. Entonces vamos a comenzar con nuestro evento, que en realidad es un resultado de lo que hemos escuchado de los padres, de las familias, de los estudiantes en querer celebrar nuestras comunidades, nuestra diversidad y en realidad pues dar show de todo el talento que tenemos aquí mismo ya ahora, y este es lo que está haciendo el distrito para hacerles saber a las familias que los estamos escuchando. So we're going to start with introductions, and the way it's going to work is I'm going to put the artist bio on the screen, which you might have seen already, and then each artist is going to do a super quick intro of themselves, and then we'll get to the poems in the same order in which they introduce themselves. Entonces vamos a ir a las introducciones de los artistas. Voy a poner su biografía en inglés y en español en la pantalla y ellos van a hacer un poquito su introducción cada uno, y después de que terminemos las introducciones vamos a comenzar con los poemas y cada poeta lo va a decir en la misma orden que hicimos las introducciones. So our first poet is Miss Iyari Arteaga, so I'll hand it off to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Muy buenas tardes a todos. My name is Iyari Arteaga. Just very quick introduction about myself. I've been surrounded by the arts ever since I was brought into this world. I've been doing theater. I've also just recently got my master's in museum studies. I doodle and I'm a visual artist every now and then, but I think deep down I've always been a writer and a poet, and maybe I was in denial about it for a while, but I think for me poetry has been a really important platform for healing and just sharing my story and sharing our stories. So I'm just really grateful and honored to be here today, to be performing with these amazing poets. I'm just really, really inspired and grateful. So thank you, Azucena, for inviting me.
All right, thank you so much, Iyari. All right, we're gonna go on to our next poet, and Mr. Viet Mai. You're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Viet. I'm an educator and a poet. Born and raised in San Diego, so San Diego is very dear to me, and it's always an honor to continue to collaborate and build with one another. I believe that you know, a lot of things are happening in our communities, and it's important that we get tapped in. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And before we move on, I just want to double check if there's anyone in the room right now who needs the translation, so I can actually translate the introductions. ¿Hay alguien que necesite traducción para seguir traduciendo las introducciones de los artistas? Okay, looks like we're good to go. Then let's head on to the next artist, Miss Leah Goodwin.
Good evening. I'm so proud and happy to be here with my my fellows, my estudiantes on the panel. So I'm Leia. I believe that the arts are the tool for healing, the tool for breaking borders and communicating. And I've been fortunate to spend a few decades in the arts and community. And I thank you, Azucena, who's also part of the RISE family students who are here. And I'm proud to be a RISE faculty member. So I was honored to be invited as the elder-ish of the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Leia. And we'll go on to our next artist, Mr. Preston Clark.
Hello all. I apologize for not looking like my picture, but but I am Ronald Preston Clark. I am born and raised in San Diego. I went to Fulton, Keeler, and Morris, so I am a neighborhood kid. And so for me to be a part of this this occasion is definitely an honor, especially since I'm currently living in Chicago. But due to us being virtual, I was able to still be able to participate. I'm thankful, humbled, and blessed for this opportunity because community is everything, especially for our young people. I'm an educator and I teach in Chicago right now, but I've taught in multiple schools in San Diego, including Gompers Prep, Morris High School, and Hoover High School. So the youth of San Diego are always on my mind. I'm always looking to work with them and alongside them. So I'm just thankful for this opportunity. I'm thankful to Azucena for inviting me, and I'm just looking forward to the fellowship of this evening.
Thank you so much. And on to our next artist, Mr. Khalil Bleux.
Hey, what's up, you guys? How you doing? My name is Khalil Bleux. I am also an artist, activist, and educator. Also born and raised in San Diego. Shout out to the Southeast. I want to echo all of the gratitude for being here and having another opportunity to celebrate art and artists and community and do sort of what we are purposed to do as creators and tell stories. So thank you all for being here with us. And yeah, I'm excited. Let's do this.
Awesome, beautiful. Thank you all. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen because that way we get to see each other and be present. And just for those of you, I mean, if you have or haven't been to a spoken word event before, know that it is very, very highly encouraged to interact with the artist and to give your responses, whether it's unmuting and saying yes or clapping or snapping your fingers. You can do the reactions on Zoom, you can do the chat, whatever it is that calls you to do something to celebrate and just express your love for the pieces that you're hearing. And then, I don't know, Ronald, I know that you've led these a lot, so is there anything else you feel that the audience needs to hear before we start?
We feed off of energy and we feed off of the crowd. And I know we're virtual, so it's a little different. But even if you just use the reactions on your bottom right, that even works for us as well, because it just lets us know that you're hearing us, that you're feeling us, and that we are engaged in that type of energy. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this all comes out. But we are here for you. We are here to share these stories with you. And so, yeah, let's get it.
All right. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and our first poet is Miss Iyari Arteaga. I'm going to put her poem in the chat. So we have the English and Spanish version of all of our poems. So if you have any loved ones at home or students or whoever that you feel like they need to know what this poem is about, please feel free to share or just for yourself to have it if there's something in there that you loved. So it's accessibility for all of our community members, right? So feel free to follow along or just be present and absorb it all in. Feel free to turn off your camera if you want to just close your eyes or turn it on or whatever, but we are gonna get ready and Miss Iyari is first.
All right, here we go, the first one of the night. I'm nervous, but here we go. So tonight, for choosing the poems for tonight, I kept going back and forth. I was deciding if I needed to pick a longer poem, something that was more spoken word. But I decided to choose two poems today. They're a little bit shorter, so that's why I'm gonna be reading two poems today. And this one I actually wrote literally almost to the exact date a year ago. So that was like almost a little bit more than a month into the pandemic. We were all feeling a lot of feelings. I know I still am, feeling a lot of anxieties and uncertainty. And then also just the continued uncertainty and frustrations and anger and sadness that comes with the inequities that we continue to see in this country, right? Especially that we continue to experience as people of color. So I was feeling a lot of feelings, and I really just sat down one day and I said, well, what would my grandma tell me if she was still here? Like, what if she was still here during these times, what would she be telling me? So this is what I wrote. If my grandmother were here, she would tell me something like this. Mija, no debes de salir afuera descalza. Te vas a enfermar si sales con el pelo mojado. Y cómete la papaya, aunque no te guste. She would pull the beans out of the cabinet, turn on the pot, and an instant aroma of frijoles would fill the room, much like when we would enter her home. The kitchen would become a classroom as she would teach me the secret medicine of our cuisine. She would then call over my grandfather and pull him into the conversation, while Juanga would immediately play through my speakers as we sing, cook, and dance. He would ask me if I know how to cut nopales now, and I would slowly turn my head away to hide my eyes, but reassure him how I will now learn. They would both walk out to the backyard, tell me stories of their land, how they crossed borders by foot and carried an infinite library of knowledge on their backs. They would kneel down to touch the soil and hug the earth with their hands, opening their hearts up to the songs of the birds and remind me to listen and listen. Honor the privilege of this stillness you now have. Yes, it is heavy, but tell us, what did you hear? Thank you. I like seeing everybody. It feels weird. Thank you. So the second poem that I'm gonna share with y'all, it actually, I didn't realize it until last night when I was choosing a poem, is in response to that last question of what did I hear? And what is it that, I wrote it almost a year later, so a few months ago, into the pandemic and everything that's been going on. So it's in response to that question. Yesterday, I could be found digging through my backyard in search of a poem. There was potting soil housed beneath my nails and the chirping of birds who narrated my quest. Maybe there was a metaphor to find in this. Today, I am absorbing grace through stillness and find these teachings to be true. When the sun continues to offer me its warmth each morning, I know that I am loved. When the flowers remain just as radiant as ever as I look towards them in admiration, I know that I am loved. When the texture of the soil on my bare feet hugs my toes and gifts me with the meaning of home, I know that I am loved. When nature allows me to witness daily timeless rituals over and over again, I know that I am loved. I am a woman who is opening myself up to what has always been and always will be. I am loved, always. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. It really touched my heart when I love your poems. Thank you. I'm just so happy to finally hear it live.
Thank you.
And on to our next poet, Mr. Viet, whenever you're ready.
Am I doing one piece or two?
You gave me, and let me actually put in the chat, so I'm glad you reminded me. So the piece I have for you is Love Me Not. If you feel inclined to do a second piece, you're more than welcome to, or if you're inclined to do a different piece, that's fine too.
And I'm gonna do this one in honor of my grandmother as well. And I apologize, I'll put the text inside and then, I apologize for the translation stuff. My grandma died and I don't even know how to cry about it. I was too busy working, too busy playing Halloween. I was just trying to create a future that I forgot about losing my past. My bloodlines feel so thin at times, it's no wonder why I get anemic. My roots are only as deep as San Diego suburbs. I was still a cub when I learned how to separate from the den. I then learned that family was anyone who fed me or let me sleep on their couch. The only thing I knew about my grandmother was she was a gambler. How bad? I have no idea. What was her hustle? No clue. Apparently grandma was senile and she had been for a while. How long? I don't know. How old was she? Like 90 something. Was she nice? Was she funny? Did she tell stories? What kind of stories did she have? How does she, I don't know. I know there should be like at least a mini lesson in social studies class that says something about ethnic ceremonies and customs, how to properly honor our past. And science should teach something about family trees that look more like bushes and fallen leaves that aren't sure which branch they come from. I never enjoyed history because I could never connect to it. I learned more about wars than I did about tradition. I learned that foreign languages are only required to get into universities, 2 years minimum, 4 is a plus. So I pretended to have cookies when partnered up with a new Vietnamese girl that didn't speak any English. I didn't understand why the Vietnamese boy called me a disgrace. Shoot, I was getting straight A's and stars on the green card. So I was taught that I was good at math and science, and there was a solution to everything, and everything has a formula. So through science, I figured that death is just a part of life, but I never understood why division was so difficult and why subtraction was so confusing. How can you just take away when I never had enough to begin with? I couldn't just borrow. That was as foreign to me as my knowledge of family history. And I was taught that history wasn't as important, only 2 years required in the A through G. I learned that history is why I have 4 half brothers. I learned that art was only an elective, and I didn't have to express myself that I didn't want to. I could just get the credit, but I didn't waste time with feelings or emotions. They don't put food on the table, a roof over your head, or clothes on your back. I learned that crying was only allowed for injuries, cuts, broken bones, bruises, feather dusters, wooden spoons. I learned about 911, stop, drop, and roll, duck and cover, and wait for the teacher's directions, but there were no drills that taught me how to deal with tragedy. I never learned what to do when mom breaks down. There was no manual for pushing the wrong buttons or no instructions on what to do about loss. I was just told to find it whenever something was missing, and I'm looking, but I can't find it because I don't even know what it is, so I'm sorry, Grandma. No one taught me how to find it. And whatever it is, I'm afraid it's gone.
Yes.
I think it's important as ethnic people in America that we do still hold on to our culture, our roots, our heritage. We celebrate with one another and all of that. You know, if you guys want to go out for a bowl of pho, I'm down. You know, City Heights is a little Saigon, right? Like we have so much richness in our blended cultures here in San Diego that we have an opportunity to kind of change the narrative, what that looks like for America. And so with this next piece, it's a love letter to us and to the rest of the country. I believe that we were meant to be together, but something tells me that the dream of us just might be difficult to manifest into destiny. It's hard to believe in dreams when reality soaks in and it's raining on parades that march into faith to captive audiences. They applaud the idea of us, but the thought of us slips their minds as we pass between lines of doubt and cynicism, and skepticism is contagious because I too am plagued with sketchy images of caricatured fallacies. So am I falling for a false hope of a united state of a marriage type relationship? Perhaps my visions of happy matrimony are distorted from bearing witness to adulterated behavior. But regardless of the random rumors that surround us every day, I still can't help but feel that your mass appeal was meant for me. And maybe my jealous tendencies are playing make-believe and tricking me into thinking I'm being pawned as another fallen soldier with a wounded heart and scars that mark a lifetime of verbal battles. So I'm trying to forget about our past disputes and grow with our differences. And I know it's difficult. When you tell me that you love me, I want to believe you. Even though I got tainted thoughts of you only playing mainstream and catering to foreign policies that never bothered to see what you mean to me. So I want to believe that you love me the way love is meant to be, unconditional, without restrictions or limitations and boundless barriers that distract us from being us. So I want to reinvest in the possibility of us. I went about it all wrong at first when I bought a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath in an affluent neighborhood just so I could fit in with your desires. I give a portion of my wages to your well-being each paycheck, but each day gets more demanding. And honestly, I can't stand seeing your financial hardship while knowing your history of impulsive expenses spent on credit. And I wish I could rescue you from recession with bailout funds, but I bought a Toyota instead. Because at $2 to $4.50 a gallon and your economy falling, somehow I knew I'd be driving the extra mile just to keep up with you. So I want to stop flattering with false feelings of infatuation and believe in love again. instead of inaccurate accusations of being stuck again. You see, I want to provide stimulus packages to your heart so that our souls can stand on rebuilt infrastructure left over from a corrupt foundation. But I need you to support me whenever I get weak, in sickness and in health, even when I'm not covered with Kaiser from full-time benefits. So how about we resuscitate this relationship and be each other's life support? How about we strengthen our hearts and exercise more on our First Amendment rather than our right to remain silent? You see, I'm trying to mend our wrongs and write them into the Declaration of Us so that we could proudly pledge allegiance under a God who knows the truth of how we came to be. So let me protect your honor. All I ask is that you don't continue to treat me like a foreigner or a criminal or illegal or a virus. You see, I need you to accept me for my entire identity as I have accepted yours, because I believe in us. Despite my insecurities, in spite of other opinions, and regardless of our far from flawless past. So how about we disregard what's past and perfect our future? There's hope for us if you believe in the dream. I love you, America. So love me. Love me now. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rise fam in the house. I'm Viet, and I'm done.
Beautiful. Yes. And in case you missed it, I did put the link to that poem in the chat so you can take a look, share it, and just absorb it all. Thank you, Viet. And up next, we have Miss Leia. Yes.
All right. Well, I hate following Viet, but I love following Viet because I love him. All right. I really want to break out my grandma poem, but I'll stay on script. Just saying. Khalil's laughing because I just sent it to him the other day. All right. War with soul. Resist oppression and racism with the spirit of openness, understanding, and love. Roar like a lion as we resist oppression and racism. Feel it in your spirit of openness, understanding, and love. Yes, your soul. It sounds like a lot, yet it must be our goal. Times are changing, but the racism remains. It shows up when we aren't looking. Hidden in our hoodies with tears in our eyes, we cry for Trayvon. And the justice system shows us that racism is not gone. Resist oppression and take control. It sounds like a lot, but it must be our goal. See, we are obsessed with being our best, and at times we don't realize that we are being oppressed. Looked over for a job promotion, ignored in the store, stopped for driving while Black. Do I need to explain some more? Resist oppression and take control. It sounds like a lot, but it must be our goal. Nurturing our soul, we put it to the test. Find love, be open and caring. It's hard to understand that the power of love is in our own two hands. Reach out to a friend, smile to that foe. Soul power continues to keep the fire aglow. So we roar with soul. We roar with soul. And we stand up for truth, and we do not shy away from the fight, and we hold love as energy. Yes, the end is in sight. That mighty roar, resist oppression and racism. That mighty roar, resist oppression and racism. That mighty roar is magnified by the many as we stand together with one voice. We do have a choice. We must do this work. Our soul demands it. Our individual spirit of openness, understanding, and love, our soul, claims it as a truth, claims it as a calling, claims this soul energy as the way forward to resist oppression and racism. So we roar with soul together, knowing that the mighty sound of love will resonate throughout the world, one voice at a time. We stand tall and come until love wins and this work is done. Until love wins and this work is done. You know, because I'm the old rebel. I've been marching for 50 years, so I've been fighting for a while, you know, and I'm still breathing, so I'll still be fighting. But when I get really tired, and I feel like that's where we all have been in this year, you know, I go into this soul work, and this is actually an older poem, but kind of a goodie. And Asusana, when you translated this poem into Spanish, it's like I really want to perform it and have someone then read it in Spanish for me, because it sounded so beautiful.
Let me know. I'll be there.
You'll
I'll
do
read
it?
in
All right. The date. It's called Food for My Soul. Music is food for my soul. Music is food for my soul. When my life feels out of control, music is food for my soul. When I feel that need to connect, I plug in to jazz. I mean, I expect that miles can take me away. My breathing changes and the tears begin to roll, cleansing my mind. Music is food for my soul. Now, it's not always the melody that takes me on a journey. Nope, the beat makes me tap my feet, and those low, steady tones of the bass keep my groove in place. So when life takes its toll, music is food for my soul. And even when I'm happy, there's a place in the melody, finding myself humming a song. Hey, when life is good, music still comes along. Music is food for my soul. Music is food for my soul. Live music is such a treat. The whole experience is so sweet. And when my girl Cynthia sings My Funny Valentine, my heart opens up and the memories are sublime. Music, food for my soul. Music is food for my soul. Music is food for my soul. Let's go eat some. Come. I mean, I want a big purple bowl of music for my soul.
Yes, thank you. And then did you want to do the other piece as well, Leah? Okay. Well, there's an extra piece in the document if you want to check it out. Thank you so much. And on to our next performer, Mr. Ronald Clark.
And in classic poetry event fashion, I'm sitting here going, do I have another piece I want to spit? Always happens.
Well,
like,
I'll put the one you gave me in the chat.
You let all the people know, like, oh my gosh. But it's always beautiful to be around other artists and other poets and other writers, because writing saves lives, art saves lives, and being able to recognize that has been a big part of my own personal journey, and my growth, and being able to put on paper all my feelings and my concerns and the things that are in the world that I care about. So the piece that I'm going to be reciting today is very near and dear to me, because pieces of it are part of a piece of literature that pretty much saved my life in the last 2 years. So I'm excited to read this to you all, and here we go. A naked canvas grins at its own ineptitude. It struggles to fathom just how irrelevant it is in this moment. It must be accomplished at some point, but how? When it is sitting there with only lies to derive its conversation, it speaks in lost languages, no longer in use. Retired rhetoric scholars deem it unnecessary to pass down to the servant and peasant industries. Its attempts at communication are futile at its best, dangerous at its worst. The most important piece from this showcase is the one I cannot produce. I wonder if James Baldwin ever ran into a chapter he could not write, or a book he could not finish, or a thought he could not relay on paper? Of course not. Baldwin was literary perfection. He could not have suffered at the hands of his own talent, could he? Of course he did. He was human after all. I close my eyes, I rest my arms by my sides and breathe deeply. My breaths resemble sighs to the naked ear, but they are natural to me. I transform into a highly meditative state, remove all thoughts from my psyche. If one presents itself, I simply acknowledge it and let it go. Who do you think you are? Let it go. You are not worthy of love. Let it go. Why must this be so difficult? Let it go. Pain is so beautiful. Leave it be. My eyes slowly open. My arm slowly rises up and grabs the paintbrush from its resting place. I place the paintbrush in the cup of water. I shake it dry, yet still moist. I dip it into a cup of red paint. I stare at it as it drips like blood, contemplates whether it is a sign of life given or life taken. I use this brush, I use this color. I paint a distant future where love and family find a space within boyhood and manhood, where showcasing love for one another will not elicit stares normally relegated to the eye contact bestowed upon women. I paint in love, I paint in blood, I paint in the destruction of patriarchal norms, I paint in pedicure, I paint in softball, I paint in WNBA, I paint in reality show, I paint in soap opera, I paint in pink, I paint in kisses, I paint in hugs, I paint in the divine feminine, I paint out of fear of the outside world not seeing me. That my skin would elicit fear, stares, anger, or worse, phone calls to a police force itching to rid society of another Black face, of my potential, of my opportunity to give back to a community that once gave me confidence that a 5'6", 140-pound frame couldn't do on its own. When you're my size, finding a place to rest your self-esteem takes a while, takes overcoming the barbs, the ridicule, the clowning for something I had no choice in. I didn't pray for this. If I prayed for this, I'd be 6'3" when I stand on my confidence, but I have accepted this. This notion that despite my stature, my skin still rings true, screams melanin to enemies I have no business even having. I cannot hide from you, from this, as much as I would like to. It shouldn't be this way. I should be able to paint because I feel like it, because I love it, because I'm free from bondage. I shouldn't have to paint for my survival, paint for an escape, paint for an excuse to still exist. With these colors before me, I should be able to paint like you. All right. So, all right. So I was saying that because I want to add a different flavor to the proceedings here. We've talked a lot about some fairly deep topics, but this is Poetry Month, right? And our love for writing and our love for the arts and our love for poetry is really what brought us into this space. So if you don't mind, I have a quick poem that is literally called An Ode to My Pen. And it's literally a love letter, like Mr. Viet said, but to my pen. So I'm gonna spit this really quickly and then let you all go.
Like Tarasi said, let's go. Let's do it.
We're one. Extensions of each other, incomplete when we're apart. Together dynamic in execution, dripping excellence on papyrus, formulating verbal constructs, so I must construct an ode to a marriage born BC, preordained to relieve my pain. 2 tears, 2 words, no more. I now know more about the depths of my lyrical capabilities, 1 in 50 states for assaulting proper English. I don't do periods and I don't do commas, but my pen and I won't allow separation, period. And a sentence from her to me may make you pause, as if you saw a comma, but it wasn't there. All that's there is a kid who has finally found companionship with the utensil that was there from the beginning. Only no one wanted to introduce us, not until higher learning became my only learning that such an introduction commenced. And what commenced was imperfection to the naked eye, as sentences lost all the rules old Englishmen created to hinder the different. So I create word contradictions that make old Englishmen roll in their graves and make my Angelou smile. From my essays now reek of fragmented phrases that only make sense to people burn incense and are outfitted in dashikis with their hair in an afro. So maybe that is why my pen and I were not introduced. Maybe the thing I'd be receptive to is calling, that I didn't look like a poet, but poets destroy stereotypes as they are stereotyped for all these stereotypes, the types that ban us from the stereo. For we are the true lyricists. Daydreaming word combinations make rappers offer diamonds for the right to my ghost. Daydreaming word combinations to make rappers offer diamonds for the right to my ghost. Daydreaming word combinations to make rappers offer diamonds for the right to my ghost. Is that the simple fact is that my last line was so refined that you have to read it another time just so you can get it. So I'm lending you some of my time to go back and reread that rhyme, then come back with your compliments. For that, as humans, confusion is an accomplishment. For my pen is my perfect compliment, but I'm still receptive to your compliments. As my divorce papers were turned in for the right to be single, I initiate the conversation as me and my pen started to mingle. She asked if I prefer short or long. I responded with Jesus wept, and she wept on the notepad I kept. And ever since, we've taken baby steps as she directed my words into a voice I can call my own, calling my own vocab, rewrite heavenly songs from our prior occupation was all wrong. Because for me, I and she, we're meant to be. We're one together, my pen and me. Thank y'all, love y'all, appreciate y'all.
Woo!
Yeah, bring it
Let's
down.
go. Check out the comments in the chat, Ron.
All right, I'll
Good
give it a look.
All right, thank you. And on to Blue, let's go. Let me put your poem in the chat.
Yo, last is a tough position in this room. What's going on? Oh man, shout out to the poets. I'm gonna take a breath and sit in those bars for a minute. Ron spitting, what's going on? Okay, now I feel raggedy. I feel like I gotta perform too, because everybody is bringing heat. So let me see. A lot of my, I think I'll echo all the sentiments that were shared by the other artists. I think that I found arts at a time in my life when I was in pursuit of freedom, when I was in pursuit of voice and joy and safety and a reason to be here. And I think that since I came into a relationship with art, since I discovered that the loudest part of my voice was that ballpoint pen, it's been something that has carried me through everything. And I'm fortunate enough to live my life as an artist, to work in service of others and help to sort of nurture creativity in folks in community. So I celebrate all of the art that I've heard tonight. I'll share a little bit of my own. I think I'll do this first piece. And I'll send, I apologize too for not having the literature, and I'll send in for translation at the conclusion of this call. I was floating away, flying Superman high, nothing but clouds and me, hoping that all this wind ain't too loud for me to spit this piece. You see, I think I've gone insane. I took all of my money, man. I bought a ticket to heaven, and on the way, I jumped out the plane. Yesterday, I tried to write y'all a love letter, but my ink was choked. I couldn't seem to draw out the way I felt, and then I awoke. If I'm to speak it clearly, like really get you to hear me, then I should purge this love on pages of a suicide note. Since when we lose someone, we finally appreciate what was given. Finally, we hear the truths we don't listen to from the living. We finally express when most of the time we hide from our feelings. We offer our understanding when most days we are unwilling, but I have got a feeling that someone here could use some healing. And I'm willing to bet that the person next to you is dealing with the same things that you're going through. I guarantee it ain't only you. Loneliness is the lie of an institution, a business move. You see, they figured out that there's money in keeping us isolated, that it's lucrative to confuse us, abuse us, to keep us jaded, to shame us and have us thinking our pain is too complicated. Connection is way too risky. Relationship is outdated. And time again, we have been violated, watching the innocents and young brothers and sisters be annihilated by the very same hands who hold our protection. We watch our oppressors reclaim their power election after election, and soon their rejection sets in like an infection and blurs our reflection. And the mirror begins to convince us that we no longer deserve affection, so we cannot offer others what we do not feel for ourselves. We no longer believe in who people are because we're pretending ourselves. It's a crying shame, and these eyes are blood-stained, and behind the mask we wear, we hide intentions of deep pain. We keep drowning in still waters, trying to hang on a little longer, so busy holding our breath we can't say I love you to our sons and daughters. But listen, we have got to learn how to share our truth, because all of this hiding, constant denying is destroying our youth, and I can no longer sit idly by, watching young dreams die, building up walls to conceal their darkness and blocking out all their light. This makes no sense, but y'all, this ain't hopeless, because I feel a change in the air like some Sam Cooke soul, and I know this tomorrow belongs to the youth of today. If we'd only clear the path, they would lead the way. Thank you. I write a lot about mental health topics because I set intention to use art as a tool for healing. It's not lost on me and hopefully anyone that this year has been incredible for folks on all fronts. That numbers of anxiety and depression, experiences of loss and isolation and loneliness have been at an all-time high, or at a forefront, at least in a line of visibility like it hasn't been before, at least in our time. And so I honor all of the experiences that folks are sitting with, anyone that is coming in with those experiences. And I offer writing and creativity and sharing in creative spaces as a place to find healing, to find stories that are like your own, using the gift of creativity, of storytelling, to share those experiences out loud, because I believe that the things that ail us are not necessarily what we're living with, right? It isn't the diagnoses or the labels that we put around it. It's the ways in which we live in secret, in the silence. And I think that sharing through art opens the door for our own self-healing, and also it creates an invitation for folks to join us in that on their own. And so this last piece that I'll leave you with is sort of a pairing in that we got invited here to celebrate ourselves today, to celebrate identity and culture and creative voice and art. And so this piece this next piece that I'm doing does a little bit of that. In my style, I believe in the idea of planting seeds. And if anyone in here has ever heard of that concept, and what that means for me is sharing a little bit of our truths, sharing a little bit of our learnings, our experiences and things, and helping to share creative ideas with folks that they can take and nurture and ruminate and feed on their own and share out into the world. And so I honor anybody in this room. I don't know how many of us in the audiences are poets ourselves, are identify as artists and creatives, but I believe that anybody who purposes themselves or who spends any time in their day creating change, doing whatever they can to change the environment that they're in, change the conditions or the ways in which folks learn, teachers, educators, students, peers. I think that there's an art to that. And I celebrate all of the creativity and bravery that comes with what we're moving through and where we're moving towards, because the world that we're trying to build and that we want to live in eventually requires the work of art, of imagination, of building something that doesn't yet exist. So plant the seeds. And this is what that sounds like. Shout out to all the artists in the room. See, artists, we are the minds that hold the visions of a world that we're all dying to live in. So it is up to us to be the difference in the world that we want to see. You see, real change starts as an idea. Then it grows on us all. It is up to us to plant the seeds, so it matters what you say. And it matters what you do. Because if you plant the seeds in the right places, you have the power to grow up in a world that will one day grow from you. You see, I wrote a goodbye letter today. I said sayonara to the old me in my usual ways. I've been moving out of darkness, enjoying the rays, thinking about making some changes in a beautiful way. So I've been spending some time with my reflection. I've been celebrating all of the nuances in my complexion, and I am grateful for this buttermilk and honey. I'm grateful for these freckles, for these better to kiss you wits, they lovely. Mwah. And I've been celebrating you too. Celebrating all of the things that we've been growing through, and I hope it'll make us stand a little taller, stand a little more tolerant, dig through our binaries, shift systems with the shift systems with the pace of culture, y'all. It is crazy how we still treat some people different for their color. How we behave off our assumptions, but won't get to know each other. Well, my nana taught me something that I'd like to spread around, that we are all one people, 500 shades of brown, and some are lighter, some are darker, some are bigger, some are smaller, some are thinner, some are thicker, some potato, some patata, and some of us are fly. Others have yet to discover how to use their wings, but we're all soaring in the same sky, heading towards the same destiny called equality. An acknowledgement that though we're not all treated the same, we must stop spinning hate in circles. We must stop pointing, passing blames. Let's just embrace each other's weirdness. Let's just laugh at all our flaws. Let's enjoy each other's company, just party, have a ball. We've got to build connections, to live with some intention, to be vulnerable, reframe our minds, revisit what we have learned to think is normal. There is nothing stopping us from moving the world today. We know exactly the things that we need to change and the places where we get in our own ways. So now it is our decision to create the world that we envision. We're guaranteed to make this shot long as we're brave enough to throw. So don't let this moment pass, condemning us to repeat our past. The seeds have long been planted. Now it's our responsibility to grow. Thank you.
Feel free to unmute, y'all. Whatever you gotta do, thank you.
Let's go. Let's go.
Whoa.
Let's go.
Powerful.
Rise up.
The Rise Talent Show.
Yes, it is. And it's beautiful. Oh, man. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we have about 5. You're more than welcome to stay longer, but please, we welcome you to unmute, turn on your camera if you feel like it. We are recording as a reminder. Ask your questions, say your comments, show the love for all of our artists, for your time and your art and your love and your healing. Thank you.